Hi everyone! I talk about my characters a lot, and sometimes I get asked if I will ever make a comic about them. Right now, my answer is not anytime soon, but maybe hopefully at some point in the future. Maybe. There are a few reasons for that. I want to have the full story written out and finished before I even think of making a comic. I'm always changing the designs of the characters, but most importantly, I'm just not very good at drawing comics. I need to get better at backgrounds, different angles, and compositions. I'm also just really impatient when it comes to comics. Even short comics take a lot out of me, but I don't want to just avoid it forever. At some point, I have to take on that challenge. And that's what this video is about. A while ago I got this comment suggesting I do a comic drawing challenge of sorts, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. But first, I wanted to get a few other projects out of the way. I was doing Cringetober, then making a whole pick crew, commissions. But with all that behind me, I can finally focus on this. However, I couldn't find a good prompt list. I found a good amount, but they weren't quite what I wanted. I wanted to do something character focused, and a lot of the lists I saw weren't quite that. So I made my own list. Again, that is up to my taste. I put together 15 prompts. I purposefully left them pretty vague so you can interpret them in different ways and have fun with them. Let's not waste time and just get into it. This was a lot. First on the list is character introduction. There's a lot of different things you can do with this. It could be the beginning of your comic, the main character being introduced to the reader, maybe with a narration from the character or visual clues. You could also draw characters meeting for the first time and introducing themselves to each other. Or you could show a character's first appearance in the story. That's what I decided to do. I had to think really hard, go through a bunch of different ideas, but in the end I drew Elsa's first appearance in The Witch's Sorrows. I don't want to ramble too much, so just watch these videos to find out more about the plot. In short, Elsa and Dan are childhood friends. She also dated Dan's brother Ben for a bit. Ben passed away. Elsa may or may not have had something to do with it. She left the city and came back 5 years later. This comic is their first time seeing each other after 5 years. If you know Elsa even a little bit, you'd notice that her demeanor is a bit different than usual. That's because I don't want to reveal her true personality right away. I want her to seem like Dan's old friend at first. Clearly grieving, troubled, but nice. And then much later we find out what she's really like. Maybe there will be some clues here and there that something is off and she might not be who she presents herself as. Another thing I wanted to try out in this challenge is different layouts. There are many ways you can format a comic. You can do slides, simple frames, webtoon style with vertical pages, something more artistic with the frames overlapping in creative ways, or something manga inspired where the pages are filled with details. I wanted to try them out, see what I like and what fits my style, and just find my footing, you know? I don't even know how I want my potential comics to look. Dan turned out so good here. For a while I found him hard to draw, but here it just clicked and he looks really good. I simplified my coloring a little bit, I left out shading and highlights. I kept the backgrounds on a simple side until the last frame. I would say since this video I've gotten a bit better at backgrounds, but I still heavily rely on references. I usually end up drawing directly over them. I like how they look in the line art stage, but then when I start coloring I feel lost and I don't know what I'm doing and I just hate everything. Still need to work on that. Though I feel like visually the characters don't look out of place anymore. The last frame was the worst to draw and I like it the least. I like the dialogue on it, but it's not very good looking. Still, I like the comic overall, and this was a pretty solid start. Next is song lyrics. Just take lyrics from a song you like, or that fits your character, and draw something based off of that. Maybe turn the lyrics into dialogue, or don't do any dialogue at all and just put the lyrics over the comic. That's what I did. The song I chose is He's My Man by Lovecat. I love this band and their music. It fits Elsa and Ben so perfectly. And I'm pretty sure He's My Man is what inspired their entire plot. Elsa didn't come back just to see her friends again. She came back to bring Ben back from the dead. She's a witch and a very skilled one, but 5 years ago she was a careless teenager, and because of her, Ben lost his life. She brought him back in an attempt to fix everything and make herself not feel guilty anymore. I love this dynamic. Is it healthy? Hell no. Absolutely not. And I want to make it very clear. Even before Ben's death, their relationship was not healthy. Elsa was possessive, got jealous easily, and was quite controlling. Then, after reviving Ben, she takes care of him and is very soft-spoken with him. But once he starts questioning things, she shuts him down and her nasty side shines through once again. Their dynamic is unhealthy and toxic, but so interesting to explore. For this comic, I kept the coloring minimal, but went out of my comfort zone with the poses. Ben got another redesign shortly before I drew this. I just can't settle on his design, but I think this current one will stick around. It's heavily inspired by the creature from Frankenstein, and partially by Lestat from Interview with a Vampire. He also just gets prettier and more feminine with every redesign. But yeah, not much else to say about this. These two are always so interesting to draw. Moving on to conversation. Simple, just characters talking to each other. Could be something funny, awkward, or sad. Could do it smiling friend style where the dialogue is very realistic. There doesn't even have to be a punchline. I love when in a comic the characters just talk about nothing for a bit, then the comic just ends. Even though this prompt is very simple and straightforward, I had no idea what to draw for it. I went through so many different ideas, but the final comic ended up being much more simple. Here the characters are Nicole and Tyler from my other story called Warmed Up. This is my slice of life universe where I don't have to brainstorm as much. The characters just exist and do stuff. Tyler is a character that changes their hair all the time, and if this ever becomes a proper comic, I want to have an ongoing bit where they look drastically different every time they show up, and no one acknowledges it except Nicole. And as someone that used to change their hair a lot, this is how I always wanted to respond to people asking if I dyed my hair when it's obvious that I did. I imagine Tyler would get annoyed by that too, so at this point I just deny it. Since I didn't do anything in the background, I fully colored the characters, and I drew the frames as slides. Some comics benefit from this format where you slide through it and slowly reveal the punchline, you know? Works well if you post it on Instagram or TikTok. Moving on to poem. This is similar to song lyrics, but this time I incorporated the poem into the dialogue. Gonna be honest, I'm not much of a reader, so I don't have a specific poet or poem that I like, so I went on Google. I found this poem called Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. Maya was born in 1928, passed away in 2014. She was an American poet, author, actress, and a civil rights activist. Her works explore themes of economic, racial, and sexual oppression. Still I Rise felt very fitting for the story and the characters, how witches were treated throughout history, and it fit nicely into the timeline. This comic features Bonnie, her mom Cassandra, and grandma Beatrice. They're all witches and care very deeply about their family history. Cassandra recites the poem to Bonnie to cheer her up. Cassandra's grandma did the same for her, but Cassandra never realized that it was an already existing poem. She believed it's something that her grandma came up with. I've had that happen with my parents or other relatives when I was a kid. They tell me a joke or give me a life lesson. I think that they're so wise and smart. Then, years and years later, I find out that they were just quoting something that already exists. And since Bonnie loves to read, she already knew of the poem and even corrected Cassandra since she mixed up a word. still in character, and I was able to mention the author in a natural way. I'm pretty happy with the dialogue here. I also went all out on the background. I always enjoy drawing their family home. It's meant to look really messy and chaotic, but also cozy in a way. The color palette took me forever to figure out. I was referencing older pieces I drew where the colors turned out okay. Then I used this trick to kind of blend the colors together a bit more, and I'm actually super happy with this background. I even saved it separately. Will be a good reference for the future. I'm honestly surprised that I pulled through on this. It's such a huge jump from the previous comic, but we keep going. Next is scary. You can do a horror comic, be it something really gory or just unsettling, or you could go in a more silly direction, whatever you want. I drew something that I wanted to draw for a while, but just never had the motivation. These are my definitely not Dream SMP characters. This universe still doesn't have a proper name, but these are characters that originated from my Dream SMP fan art, and at some point I just turned them into my own characters. The boy is Theodore. He is a human boy living in this fantasy land filled with different creatures, from fairies to aliens. He's in a forest, minding his business. Then he hears someone nearby, looks around and sees a terrifying, contorted creature. The creature is... He used to be a human too. You can find the more detailed lore in this video, but in short, he found a book that teleported him back in time, and the more he used it, the more it changed him. He very slowly lost his humanity and turned into this creature. Now he's just roaming around the lands, all alone, and he's become a bit of an urban legend. He's been seen only a couple times. I've gotten some suggestions to have some kind of connection between the two, as the only humans in this universe, but I haven't really figured that out yet. For this comic, I went for black and white. I love the first frame. I love it so much. Theodore is just so little. There's no dialogue, the comic is short, but I'm glad that I finally drew this. Like I said, I've had this idea for a while, but I think I was going to make it super detailed, so I gave up after one frame. Sometimes, making things more simple makes them better. Moving on to romance. Just draw something cute, something sweet. I immediately knew I wanted to draw Nicole and Oliver. No questions about that. Over a year ago, I drew this for Cringetober, and I decided to redraw it. This specifically. I really don't like what I did with this. Even when I did it, I didn't like it, so let's refresh it. Nicole looks a bit different now. Oliver never changes. Their relationship is an annoying slow burn. It takes them forever to start dating. It's obvious to everyone that they like each other. There's a lot of miscommunication. Oliver is the sweetest guy ever, and Nicole takes a while to open up. But once they're together, it's all very sweet. Here I was trying out a different brush. I usually go for Dip Pen Heart, but here I used Heart Falcon Pen Smooth. Dip Pen is very consistent, and the Falcon Pen has different thickness depending on how fast or slow you draw, so it adds some line weight variety. I like it, so I'm definitely adding it to my favorite brushes. I also really love the coloring style I chose for this. I used dark blue for the line art, did flat colors besides some hair details and a blush, and the color scheme just worked out really nicely. Looks very cute and lighthearted in a way. On the last frame, I'm not sure if I'm fully satisfied with Nicole's expression. When she's flustered or embarrassed, she almost looks angry, like she's trying to fight it. I'm not sure if I quite capture that. Also, her pose could be more dynamic, but I'm still very happy with this. Definitely much better than the old one. Next is Cutaway Gag. A cutaway gag basically means interrupting the main scene with a different, sometimes unrelated scene for a joke. A very popular example is Family Guy. A character says something, then it cuts away to a flashback or something random. I was very excited for this one because I already had it all planned out. Cassandra makes an appearance again, along with Dan's mom Celine. Their relationship is complicated, but this comic takes place when they're together. Again. Cassandra took Celine out on a date. Celine asks where she got the money for that because Cassandra is not employed, and Cassandra doesn't reveal it. I got this idea while watching videos about crows and how you can befriend them. They can even bring you gifts, it's awesome. And I immediately thought that Cassandra would definitely have at least one crow friend. But realistically, it would be around 20. She feeds them regularly, probably named every single one, and they often bring her gifts. This time, the gift was someone's wallet. I had a lot of fun drawing this, and I love the result. Celine in that first frame. Ooh, that divorce glow. Moving on to argument. Just characters arguing. Again, could be something humorous, something more serious and dramatic, whatever you want. We are going back to the Witch's Sorrows, and Daisy makes an appearance. I kind of forgot about her again, so I wanted to give her some attention. I made an entire video about her, but in short, she was in the same friend group as Elsa, Dan, and Ben. They were very close as kids, but as they got older, cracks started showing. Then, after Ben died, Elsa moved away, and Dan ghosted Daisy, and she's, understandably, still pissed at both him and Elsa. As she got older, she realized that their friendship actually wasn't as good as she remembered. This comic takes place after Elsa is already back. The day before, Daisy saw her hanging out with Dan, so she confronts him. At first, she tries to see if he will lie to her, and he does. He kind of panicked and acted like he didn't know at first, but Daisy sees right through him. He was going to tell her, but didn't know how to approach it. They haven't talked properly in a long time, and he wasn't sure if Daisy would even want to talk. So, Daisy is even more disappointed now. Again, understandably, she's being left out again. Then tries to save the situation by saying that Elsa was asking about her, but at this point Daisy is just done. She had some hope that maybe these two changed and there's a chance that they can be friends again, but no. At least not yet. Dan's new friend group also made a small appearance, even though I had no time nor patience to properly draw them. His new friends are his basketball teammates. They're mean, popular, and kind of use Dan for their gain. But Dan is such a huge people pleaser at this point in the story that he doesn't speak up against them and just goes with it to fit in. But don't worry, he gets better, it just takes a while. With this comic, my progress slowed down a bit. I did the previous ones very fast, and here I kind of burnt out a little bit. The poses and expressions are simple, though I did put more effort into Daisy's expression at the end. She's angry, but also deeply hurt by Dan's actions, though she tries to hide it. Next is incorrect quote / meme. I took this from last year's Cringetober. Take a meme or an incorrect quote and turn it into a comic. Incorrect quote is a trend of giving characters dialogue from a show, movie, Vine, Tumblr post, or other outside source. Usually the dialogue is comedic. To make this easier, just search up an incorrect quote generator. That's what I did, and it gave me quite a few good ideas, but for this challenge I decided to do this. This is more lighthearted, so I'm using Nicole and Tyler again. A lot of their dynamic is Nicole venting to Tyler about her crush on Oliver, though she leaves out a lot of details at first. Tyler is a very blunt person. They also don't really care for romance, so their advice is usually tell him that. Not much else to say about this one. It's pretty simple, so let's move on. Next is holiday. Again, a lot of things you can do here. Could do Halloween, Christmas, a character's birthday, some other holiday, or you can do vacation, because, sometimes holiday can also mean vacation, so go crazy. I drew this around Christmas time, so I did a Christmas comic. Cassandra and Celine make an appearance again. I imagine this takes place after the main story, They're all living together as a big family now. Cassandra and Celine are a bit tipsy, in a good mood, and they kiss under the mistletoe. And Dan and Bonnie are very uncomfortable. At least Dan is. I love the progression of his dynamic with Bonnie. They go from enemies to friends and end up as step-siblings. It's so funny. And it wasn't even planned, just when I came up with Cassandra and Celine's plotline, it all fell into place. Bonnie doesn't really mind, honestly. Celine is a nice person. Dan needs time to get used to it. Not in like a homophobic way, of course, he's bisexual himself. He's just not used to seeing his mom all happy and affectionate with someone, and with Bonnie's mom of all people. But I imagine at this point he moves out and is living on his own, or with Mingu. I had fun drawing this, I was in a very good mood, I loved coloring the sweaters. Yeah, this is awesome. Next is fourth wall break. The fourth wall is an imaginary wall that separates a fictional story from the viewer. Breaking the fourth wall is when the story or characters are aware of the audience. It can be used in a lot of different ways, for horror, humor, to take the audience along, or for a more metaphorical reason. Usually it's shown through the character looking directly into the camera, or at the viewer, but it can also be done in a more meta-humor kind of way. That's kind of the direction I went into. I'm using Nicole and Tyler again, and the joke is that Tyler never moves in these comics, only their mouth opens when they talk. They're not an expressive character, and their body language is more reserved, so I just use the same drawing for every frame. It's a shortcut for me, but also in character for Tyler. This challenge just makes me want to draw these two more. I really enjoyed the process here. It's definitely not an explicit fourth wall break, but I'll just go with it. Moving on to establishing shot. An establishing shot is a way to show the setting where the next scene takes place. Think a wide shot of a city in a movie. In comics, they are used to set the scene, and so you can cut corners on some frames. For example, do a detailed shot of the background, then in the other frames you can only show a small part of it. Your mind just kind of fills in the blanks. The way I did it is I drew Bonnie's house in its own frame with a fence visible. Then on the rest of the frames I just add the fence in front of Dan and Bonnie to show that they're on the other side of it, in front of the house. And I actually drew the house frame from scratch. I kind of had to do that because I'm referencing an actual house on my street that I took a photo of. Probably not the best idea to show that on YouTube. I mean, I can't just always trace my references, right? It was challenging, but I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. I wanted to draw it for a while, and I'm glad I finally did. I had a few ideas for the rest of the frames, which characters to use, but I ended up drawing Dan and Bonnie. This is at a point where they still don't really like each other, but have to work together. Dan comes from a family of witch hunters, and Bonnie is a witch. When they first meet, Dan tries to confront her or threaten her. It's what he's been taught since childhood. It doesn't quite work out, so he decides to get rid of her in some other way that doesn't involve... I'm still working out the details of that. They start off as enemies, then they are forced to work together as the only two in the group who know about witchcraft and what's going on in their town. They slowly warm up to each other and become friends, then step-siblings like I said earlier. I like their bickering, it's so fun to me. Dan is a big people-pleaser with everyone else, but since he actively does not like Bonnie, he doesn't filter himself around her. I like this. I was pretty nervous for this prompt, but it was actually one of the easiest to do out of the bunch. Next is scene redraw. Take a scene from a movie, show, a game, and turn it into a comic. You can draw your characters over the scene, or just literally recreate the original scene in a comic format. I'm using this scene from The Craft, and drawing Dan and Elsa over it. Dan doesn't know that Elsa is a witch, but finds out eventually. When that happens, he's devastated and appalled. She was lying straight to his face for years, and not only that, but the bad things that have been happening in their town is her doing. It takes him a while to fully grasp the situation. Also, I have tried doing this before with this scene, but it looked so bad. Dan looks awful. Elsa doesn't look too bad, it's just not exactly Elsa. This turned out a lot better. With this, I also went back to my no line art coloring style. I felt like this comic would really benefit from that. I haven't been doing it much outside of commissions. It was fun, but I later went over it and added some extra outlines, just so the characters don't blend into the background. I like the result a lot, and now we only have 2 prompts to do, but they're the hardest in my opinion. I'm scared. Next is Unreliable narrator. This sounded cool when I was making the list, but it was actually really hard for me to put it in a short comic format. An unreliable narrator is a narrator that misleads the audience. Could be from memory issues, a distorted perception of reality, or just straight up lying, be it to the audience or the other characters in the story. It's really cool and interesting when it's done in a sneaky way. You don't realize it until much later. It works best in a long format, so it was hard to make it short. I went with the lying idea. I used Dan and Elsa again. They're catching up, and Dan asks about Elsa's mom, Paula. Elsa tells him that she died from a sickness. Dan is obviously sorry to hear that, but Elsa isn't telling him the full truth. She played a part in it too. I'm still deciding on what exactly happened. Right now I'm leaning towards it being both actual health issues Paula had, but also Elsa had a part in it. After leaving their hometown, the relationship got even worse than before. The arguments and fights became constant, and Elsa's mother would even bring up what happened with Ben just to hurt Elsa more. It all piled up to the point that Elsa started to despise her mother with all her soul, plus their extended family were fueling the hatred, praising Elsa for how special and powerful she is, and that Paula just doesn't understand it. So maybe when she got sick, Elsa made the issues worse. But despite that, Elsa was still taking care of her mother, making her food, changing her clothes, keeping her company. Paula didn't have the strength to scream or throw stuff anymore. For the first time, they could spend time together without arguing. And the last prompt is fight, the most challenging one for me. I'm not very good at super dynamic poses and compositions, even on just one-off drawings, so I was heavily relying on references, mainly My Hero Academia fight scenes. I wanted to do something dramatic and cool, but you can just do a regular physical fight as well. I'm using my many magic characters, that's my magical girl universe. It's basically a cheesy superhero story. The main characters are a team of fashionable magical girls, and they fight just as fashionable supervillains. I kind of got burnt out here, I'm not gonna lie. There was a big gap between the previous comic and this. I mean, it was holiday season to be fair, but I also kept putting it away. In the end, I'm not super happy with it. I did experiment with the line art a bit, that was kinda fun. I definitely could have done much better though. But this was the last comic I drew. That's it. I honestly had way more fun with this than I thought I would. I was expecting to be miserable, but I kind of fell in love with drawing short comics. I've been doing it a lot even outside of the challenge. It's still difficult, don't get me wrong, and I rely a lot on shortcuts, reusing frames, simplifying the coloring, but then I just keep looking at them and reading them, and it's just so cool. I still have a lot of room to grow, definitely, but I'm glad I finally pushed myself to try it, and you guys seem to like the comics as well. They did well on my socials, people feel more engaged when there's dialogue and the characters are actually doing something. Unexpectedly, the most popular comic is the conversation one. It got over 70,000 likes on my Instagram, which is nuts. I mean, thank you, obviously, but I really didn't expect such a simple comic to do this well. You guys can do this challenge as well, of course. There aren't any strict rules or deadlines or anything like that. Do them as fast as you want, feel free to change the order of the prompts or just skip them altogether. Have fun, obviously. Like I said, the prompts are purposefully vague, so do whatever suits you. I will post the list on my Instagram and leave it in a community post here so you can have it in better quality. I love seeing people do my other challenge, it's such a cool feeling. If you do, feel free to tag me. I might see it, and like it, maybe even comment. But that's all I have for this video. Thank you for watching, for going on this little journey with me. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. Check out my other socials, they will be on the screen and in the description. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!